Hello, Warriors. Good turnaround Tuesday to everybody. AJ, how are you? Bran, team,
Hey
Ryan,
Dale. Hi
how are
mate.
you, buddy? How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, mate. You?
Pretty good. Here we are in the Dixie, attacked the upper trend line, being turned back. So maybe we still get that washout under this low because of these readings down here. What are you thinking dollar-wise? Cable held support. Where are you at on this FX stuff?
On this FX stuff, is that what we're doing? Is it FX?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm continuing my short building dollar yen.
That's come off good.
Yeah, I'm last in at 134.44.
Okay.
So I'm playing a little bit on the short term trade and a little bit going in my core pot in my slow cooker, as you call it. What do you call it out there? Slow roaster, don't you?
I don't know. I don't cook.
Ask your local
That's
takeout.
it. It's some type of appliance anyway. So uh, Dixie itself, I did see that specs are even longer, large specs got even longer euro and cable. I mean, a lot of bearishness out
Yeah.
there. So I don't know. Are there any numbers that could really move the dollar this week, Ryan, that you're paying attention to?
Well, it's the housing. We've got some housing data coming out at the start of the housing month, starts and permits. So it's gonna be interesting whether it's it's not going to change what the Fed do, but the dollar reaction and yield reaction is going to be interesting given what we had from the Michigan and the CPI and the PPI and everything last week. Thought it was all running one way, and then a couple of small points like in the Michigan, that jump in the inflation expectations and so on and so forth, and things just turned right around. So it's going to be interesting watching just to see the reaction, probably more than what the actual numbers are.
Okay, as far as risk is concerned, new recovery highs here, and the only bearish thing I could say about it, the beach ball, is that it's not confirming. What do you guys think? More melt up talk than ever.
Give or
Bitcoin
take, it's
bouncing back.
decent earnings, some decent earnings dropping at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So VIX at just got decimated under 17. Everything we haven't had this level. I don't know. I don't even know if we were back here when the market was at all-time highs at the end of 2021. So there's an awful lot. You have to say this. I don't know where people are saying there's a lot of fear in the market. I don't think you get a VIX reading of 17 breakdown under 18. I don't know where the low is. So
It's strange. It's strange to see the VIX doing that while we've still got all this geopolitical stuff rolling around.
So here we were before the bear market started, right?
Mm-hmm.
1662. So we were above these highs. This was, about 3 months before the top. And then we had this, but even down here, 15. We're not that far away. That's what's interesting, because we're still 20% away from new all-time highs, and the VIX is almost at the same levels it was when we were at all-time highs. And there was a lot of euphoria back then. I mean, everyone's making money in SPACs and memes and crypto and everything. So, it's a different environment, but same price. Just makes me think it's mispriced, but, there's nothing technical yet to say, go ahead and start, buying VIX today. So it'll probably reverse and be up about 300 today. Anyway, copper, platinum, silver, little bounces in silver, a little weaker bounce in silver than gold, which is a little different than, how it was all the way up. You'd normally, have silver way outperforming. It does look like there may have been a turn in this gold silver ratio. At least for maybe a correction back to where the big acceleration came in, which was, what, up here. This formation measured 80, and we had an overshoot. But, I could see the gold silver ratio going up there if we get a pretty decent correction in the metals. And it's hard for me to see it doing that if the dollar's going to keep continuing. In fact, there's pretty good correlation between the gold silver ratio and the dollar. Dollar going down. This is dollar going up with gold, and everyone's saying, so if this is popping, it could be an indication that the dollar's going to pop too. I just think it's going to be, how markets love drama, right?
Yeah.
So
How does that gold silver ratio move on risk and stuff?
it moves more with the dollar. All
Yeah.
right. So so I don't know. The dollar's on. I would say that a weaker dollar has still been supportive of the market, right? So this is a weak dollar. This move, right? Dollar's been going down, and this has been going down. So I'm just saying there could be corrections in both, is what I'm thinking, and this will mean that during the correction, silver should do worse than gold on any sell-off, any corrective action here, just on the, the ratio. And I think that's, I'll bring K-Man in. And K-Man, anything interesting that you...
Hello, Dale.
Good morning to you.
Anything interesting?
They trying to put us to sleep already? It's only April. It's
Yeah,
not July or August. Feels like
true.
August.
Well, as a matter of fact, I was looking at the volumes yesterday, and we do see a bit of a decline in the FX volumes starting this April compared to prior months. So summer comes early. But
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that dollar yen held just above there. We didn't have a close yet above the daily
34.
cloud, which is today again at 130, around 134.5. So that's an interesting one. Euro losing just, not versus the dollar, but on the cross side losing a little bit of steam. That's probably versus sterling to do with the labor report we had out of the UK, where cable is again testing 124.40, 50. That's really the crossroad for the short term in the cable. I'm seeing that you are on the dollar China. We have been talking about that. We've been in this range for about a month, and despite the better data out of China, we only had a very, very shallow move earlier today. I think the geopolitics, are counterbalancing the better data out of China. Market a little bit reluctant to believe them as well, probably. But having been in this range for a month now, I guess it's about time to look, or to at least start to prepare the levels if ever we would break out of the 684.90. 192 range, then I think this thing can start to move again.
This speed line.
Wait a second, Gaiman. You mean that Chinese data are not reliable? That's what you're telling us?
I said we are reluctant. I didn't say we didn't believe anything. I said we are reluctant. Come on. I mean, let's.
I'm shocked. I have to tell you, I'm shocked.
We're diplomatic. Yeah. It's
this platinum gold spread, guys. I talked about it where platinum would, the spread would narrow. It's come in pretty good.
Yes, yes. Platinum has started doing some catching up. We talked about that last week as well. We've been monitoring.
Do you remember
metals.
when it traded at a premium to gold, Steve? Or
oh yeah, no, not at all. It's still the vast majority of my life has been with platinum performing better than gold. So I do remember very, very well. And
that's platinum, a big trade. If that happens, they just go to parity again.
Platinum is actually, as we speak, testing a multi-year corrective channels trendline resistance. So in essence, platinum is now queuing up to be the third metal that will be breaking out from a multi-year formation, because that's very important technically, right?
So it's probably this right off this high.
Let me see what you're looking at.
Should I do this or should I do this? Why don't I do this?
If you ignore that week that you started from and you start from the week below.
Okay, so you don't like the wick, so.
You'll see why, because it aligns much better with the rest of the highs. No, you can extend it even further back, as you see.
Oh, further back.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you take that trend line, you see.
Yeah, got it.
And if you clone that trend line, you'll see that it's actually a channel.
Okay, great look. Platinum breakout today, guys.
If not today, it seems likely that it's going to be very
should get something like this.
No, yeah, I agree.
Measured move.
Silver has already done it. Gold did it a long time ago. It's platinum's time to shine.
Yeah. The white stuff should lead, and that's what's going on.
Yep.
Okay. Good to hear you. Maybe is Stel back?
No, yes, he is.
Oh, you already made it back. Okay.
I was here.
Wow,
6 a.m. in the morning, man.
Yeah, I thought you'll need half a day to settle back, in the saddle.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
after
young.
Traveling.
No, but I bet you were tired. It looks like you were on the battlefield over there on that island with the missiles flying around.
It's amazing. It's definitely worth.
It is amazing. We are celebrating Jesus in the best possible manner. We have
we launch rockets at each other.
War games.
Yes, and we have every year at Easter we have like several people, including young kids, losing their limbs forever because
the fireworks.
That's a Christianic way, I assume, right? I mean,
anyway, let's forget about that. Okay,
God gives you 2 hands and 2 legs so you can actually lose some of them, right?
It's good to have spare tire. Yeah. Anyway, Steve. Anyway, Father Steve, thank you very much for your homily today.
So I'm back, and I see that nothing's changed on the 2 trading days that I was away. We are grinding higher in risk, and we've talked about it. The market's very short. You mentioned VIX, and the VIX is so low because we are seeing just this, destructive, slow grind higher in risk, and shorts just giving up again and again and again. And that's the only thing. If you look at the geopolitical environment, we're talking about this on the flow show this morning. There's so many things to be scared of. The market, though, is completely numb to all these headlines: China, Russia, exercises, joint military, blah blah blah. Nobody cares, which is crazy, but that's how it is.
I think Stelios, they are just forced to get out.
Sorry, say again?
I think they're just forced to get out. People are mostly short assets, short equities, and they're all getting forced out, and then they're buying this and seeing the option volumes have spiked again. They're all just being forced out, and the VIX, is just going down because it's so gradual and actually nothing much happening, but we are trading at high levels in equities.
Yeah. You have to call it complacency. I mean, that's a weird mix. Huge shorts, you know, and I think hedge fund shorts, record hedge fund
Yes.
shorts.
Yes.
Okay, but you look at things like the greedometer and stuff, it's not in panic. It's at one level below extreme greed.
Yep.
So you have all these mixed things. I mean, you know, it feels like everyone's bearish, but you get a reading of greed, and you know, I don't know. There's mixed signals about, is the market really, is it all short squeezing, or you know,
I
maybe
think in
people are
most
coming
part,
and buying it. Yeah.
in most part, it's short squeezing. Then you get a
Yeah.
little bit of FOMO. So until something changes, this is the way to go. And we've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks. Don't get in front of this. It's not going quickly, but it is going. You know, the S&P is going towards 4,200, and if you take those highs, then we go higher. You know,
Yeah,
that's
we've said it before. This is a very dangerous rally because it's a hated rally.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand it. A lot of people are not participating in it, which makes it likely to have follow through, because eventually, you know, when people are not participating in such a move, you know, one by one,
Yeah.
they start rethinking about it, and they start deploying some money into this move, and that means, you know, more fuel for the move, right?
Melt up to new highs.
Yeah.
As I've said before, I'm very skeptical in following this move or advising anybody to follow it, but I'm afraid it's not unlikely.
Okay. All right. So we'll see. I mean, if you want to just, if you cover up, you know, this was a range, right? So let's call 42.38, right? That's, you know, 400 handle range. Break out over 42 plus 4, 46.
How many stops do you think there are above 4,200?
I think at least 2 or 3.
Yeah. So when
100,000. Yeah.
Ask the viewers, how many have got short and got stops above 42? That'll give you a good indication.
Yeah. So make your stop 42.50 in case it trades 42.10 and then comes back down.
Yeah,
So,
never put it on a big figure.
Yeah, don't put your stop right over the exact high, and don't just say, oh, I'm giving a tolerance because you give it a few pips. How many stop hunts have you seen in your career? How many times have you been a victim of it where you get taken out and then, you know, you're gone? I mean, this was the most classic one this year in silver right here. I mean, and it happens quite a lot. This right here, this day. So, you know, we were congesting and distributing, and it may have been an employment number, but God, if you had your stop right over this high, you got taken out that day, and by the end of the day, you were up, and then you miss a big move. So don't put your stop where everyone else's is my advice. Give it tolerance. And that means you have to use less leverage to have wider stops so your trades could breathe. I know
good advice. It's like,
people don't want
like the 80-20 rule in FX around a big figure.
Yeah. Yeah, they're magnets. So anyway, just don't do that.
Put your stop over 5K to be safe. Give it a bit of leeway.
Risk of what, 5,000 on what?
Yeah.
The S&P.
If you want to be short.
Yeah, 5,400, which is
Exactly.
you know, I've seen that target, and 6,000, and yeah, they're starting to come out of the woodwork a little bit. Why don't we bring the boss in, see what he's thinking here?
Yeah, because it's Canadian CPI.
Well, we have Bruce Springsteen here. Nice.
Really?
Great. Give him the microphone.
You know, I actually saw it last time I was in New York, which happened to be like pre-COVID. I actually saw Bruce Springsteen on the street. So,
wow.
So there.
Did you actually speak to him?
Bang.
What's that?
Did you actually speak to him?
No. He was actually walking out of a show. He was doing a show down in Midtown Manhattan or something, and He was walking out, and there's just gobs of people. And we're like, who is that? And we're like, oh, that's the boss. It's Bruce Springsteen. So I just saw like the back of his head. But anyway.
But you too, Blake Morrow, are born to run.
Yeah, that's right.
For president, Blake for president.
We're gonna get Dale singing here shortly. Just real quick, guys. We have a lot of earnings that are coming out today, and you can see Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Lockheed Martin. We've got Netflix later today after the close. So we're in the middle of earnings season, and stocks are recovering. We're seeing the equity markets continue to squeeze. We have that insatiable squeeze, and I know you guys were talking about it a little bit earlier, but check this out. I mean, trend highs in the S&P come in at 4190. That was the previous high from February. That's the 161% extension of this range that we're in. I wouldn't be surprised if we tag that today around the 4200 level. We are at the 127% extension right now, and I think as you guys are just talking about it, I mean, people are just getting forced out. They're just, kind of forced out of these trades. Now, I want to talk, because we have Canadian CPI coming out, just a couple key developments that I think we should be looking at. And first of all, I need to say that, inflation or disinflationary pressures seem to be pretty consistent with what we're seeing globally. So if inflation continues to weaken, in Canada, or we see the number come in a little worse than expected, which, by the way, you'll see the inflation data. Well, actually, we can pull it up via data flash. You can see it right here. We have the CPI data coming out. If those numbers come in a little worse than expected, you look at the dollar CAD, we got to bounce from right where we technically you would expect it. I thought we would, find some support near the 200-day moving average. We slipped past it. Last week we hit the broken trend line, bounced right off it, 88% retracement. It's kind of like the last, how should I say, line of defense, really, for anybody who's bullish. So you got the 88% retracement that really held that broken trend line. So we kind of know where our levels are at. And I know if you've been, if you're in the ForexAnalytix community, we've been writing down 133 and 134.20 for like a long time, like literally since last week. So on our key levels, we get all these key levels together as a group after this show on the morning edge. That's where we do that. Anyway, so I think this 133 level is obviously really important, and previous support, which is acting as current resistance, is at 134.15. So we know where our support and resistance levels are. Now, if the data does weaken, we might see that move, talk about a squeeze back above 134.20. And we actually might see a pretty decent move higher. And the reason why I say that also is how many people are long CAD right now based on the move in crude. We've got crude oil, which, by the way, doesn't look bearish at the moment. It just continues to hold up. We got that gap and run from a couple of weeks ago, the OPEX move. We got the gap and run. We're above channel resistance. So if crude's not selling off and it's kind of holding up here, I think a lot of people have been long Canadian dollars as a result. Well, that's just one reason. So if we squeeze past 134.20, it should be fairly decent. Now, one last chart I want to bring up, and then, I'd love to get you guys' comments here, is if you look at the Canadian yen, which obviously the yen's been in all sorts of news recently. But you see the dollar Canadian, after having a false breakdown 3 weeks ago, we bounced back to the 38% retracement. That's the 38% retracement from the multi-year highs that we had, to the fall. We're at right here at basically 100, just shy of 100 yen. And you can see how we're stalling there. So, if the inflation data is a little weak, the Canadian yen might be a really good place to be looking, because we've seen yen strength all day today, really since Asian trade overnight. So anyway, just some heads up with some Canadian pairs to be watching when the data comes out in about 5 minutes. Any comments from, Cayman, Ryan, Stelios, since you guys were on the Flow Show earlier? Any comments regarding Canada here?
Yeah, I was saying on the Flow Show that the number today may be quite important because it's expected to drop back below 4.5%, where exactly the Bank of Canada rates are right now. So the market may react to a number that plunges below or remains sticky above. So I do expect the Canadian dollar to move today.
Yeah, and what we're going to put for the news, we're going to put the dollar CAD and the Canadian yen right here, and yeah, I mean, you've got to, I think you've got to approach the data with the idea that inflation is dropping, globally. So, and yeah, you pointed out, hey, maybe it's sticky, and if it's sticky, the Canadian would definitely respond to that. So Ryan, you have any thoughts here?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Talking about the the RBA, their minutes out, talking more hawkishly, saying that we're on pause, but we were discussing when further tightening might be needed. They're all scared that inflation is dropping, but it's going to hold up or it's going to start going back up again. They're absolutely shit scared of it. So they're not going to, people talking about cuts are still, I think, way off the mark. There's probably more chance in banks going back to hiking than they are going to cutting.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really good point for all central banks, right? That's not just for it's not for the
look at the RBNZ.
Yeah, it's everybody. Yeah. Hey, by the way, guys, we have about 3 minutes before the data comes out. I'm gonna give you all a heads up. Many of you have been listening to me for 10, 12, 20 years. Rick in our chat room, he just celebrated his 20 years since we had met in person in Dallas, and I was teaching him how to trade, the currency market back then. Many of you know that when I schedule a time away from the computer, we usually have some pretty high volatility. I'm actually going out of town on Friday for a college soccer showcase for my son, so we'll be in Texas. Just want to let you guys know that. So if you guys are looking for like the market to implode, maybe it is on Friday. What do you think about that, Dale?
There is coincidentally, Blake, a pretty rare solar eclipse on Thursday.
There we go.
Then we know the world's
there we go.
Hold on, my tinfoil hat fell off. Anyway, yeah, just thought I know Steve loves, and this didn't come from Norm Winsky. It came from the internet and people saying big eclipse on Thursday.
Good to know. Well,
W.D. Gand paid attention to him, and he's a guy that could time not just a bottom, but what time of the day it would make a bottom.
Wow,
so he had some knowledge, that guy.
That is something. Well, hey guys, we are just a couple minutes out. Let me mention this. If you guys haven't checked out the trader funding program, make sure you do so. We allow people to trade our funds, but what's more important, is that you can be involved in the ForexAnalytix community for a period of time. Because when you're trying to do this, we want to make sure you're not on your own. You're in a community. You can talk to myself, Ryan, Cayman, Stelios, Steve. We're all in the chat rooms talking about what we're buying, what we're selling, what the ideas are. And it's not just us, it's our entire community, which is a very, very busy trading community. So if you guys want to, not risk your own money in this environment, especially as we head into a recession, you want to risk our money, check out the trader funding program. Then you can be involved in our community as well. All right. Just want to mention that really quick. We have 10 seconds. Here we go, guys. So Canadian yen on the far left, dollar CAD on the middle right here. instant reaction to inflation data. Let's see.
US housing data is mixed.
Housing starts are out.
CPI year on year in line.
There
core
it is.
CPI is
CPI,
weaker.
The month over month is
the year on year is weaker. How can that be? That's interesting.
Yeah,
but overall,
saying,
plus or minus 0.1, it's not going to make a difference.
Nah, no real reaction yet.
Anyway.
Send me a case of Crown Royal, Canada.
So, did you say the core number is what, Ryan?
Core numbers are softer. The BOC cores coming a point lower than expected at 4.3. The other 25 measures they use for the cores come in 3 pips, 4 pips, 5 pips lower on the year-on-year numbers. So keeps the BOC in pause mode, I would say.
All right. Well, not a huge reaction here, and which is unfortunate. So when the reaction's coming, guys.
On the eclipse.
Yeah, well, Friday, as I'll be sitting in Texas away from my desktop. That's when the market usually implodes, when I can do nothing really about it. So
just don't look at the sun, man.
That's right. All right, guys and gals, I want to thank you for being with us today. Make sure you check out ForexAnalytix. Make sure you check out the Trader Funding Program. If you don't know how to do that, I'll just put a link in the chat box. Dale, I hope you have a great interview.
I don't think he's here. Neil, are you here? Neil Jacobs, raise your hand.
Isn't he here to talk crypto, which is interesting because Bitcoin is powering higher. And by the way, if you see where we reacted from overnight,
your line, perfect.
Yeah, like if you are again a ForexAnalytix subscriber, you would have known last night that Bitcoin is coming back to the breakout point. 29,000 should be key support for the bulls, and boom, we just bounced like a bat out of hell out of there. So hopefully you guys are taking advantage of these moves that we put up for you. So he's not here?
He's here now.
Oh, he is. Okay, great. All right. Hey, by the way, Ethereum completes its bull flag pattern at 2,200, if you guys are paying attention to. So great. Have a great interview. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, team.
Cheers.
Welcome back. Thank you, Ryan, came in, Steve, Stel.
Thank you, Dale.
Neil, how are you, buddy? You wearing one of your t-shirts here?
Yeah, there's enjoy Bitcoin on here.
It feels better up here at 30,000, huh?
How many people bought that t-shirt at 69,000?
Bought the t-shirt? You said?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't look at the price correlated to specific t-shirts.
All right. Well, that's what I thought we'd have a new market correlation here today. Your t-shirt indicator. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin businesses, products, and services are definitely highly correlated to Bitcoin's price, especially the price volatility.
Okay, so Neil, what's top of mind? I didn't get mine bought, and but yeah, I was price sensitive. So anyway, Neil helps people without, maybe there's a little income for his referring you to certain places. Why don't you tell us a little bit about when I got in touch with you and said, Neil, I want to buy my first Bitcoin, and you sent me some places to go check it out. Is that your preferred method of how you get people involved that are not, and maybe explain the process to them from purchasing it and have another cup of coffee?
Well,
purchasing it and then take delivery of it. You want to talk about how that's done and how you direct people?
Sure. So usually the first question I get from people who are interested in Bitcoin is, how much should I invest in Bitcoin? Okay. And when that's the first question, I tell them that they shouldn't. Because if you have to ask that question, you're not ready. You need to learn about Bitcoin and why it's important, what it's trying to do. But once they get to that point, I recommend Bitcoin only products and services, not anything that's crowded by other crypto things. I'm not, as you know, a fan of everything outside of Bitcoin in the cryptocurrency space. And I want a company that's focused on Bitcoin and not other things, because if their focus is on Bitcoin, their products and services are going to be sharpened, as opposed to one that's scattered among these thousands and thousands of other cryptocurrencies. A lot of people. So anyways, one of the companies that I have done work for, and I still do some work for, is Swan Bitcoin. That's the one I think that I mentioned last time on here. But there's a ton of other Bitcoin only places you could buy Bitcoin. Cash App, River Financial, depending on where you are in the world. In Canada, they have Bull Bitcoin, it's called. Coiner out of the UK. So there's a lot of places Bitcoin only. So that's where what I try to do first.
Do they segregate funds like a regulated firm would have to? Say, for example, you bought through these guys, and you didn't take delivery of it, you just let it sit. Do people just let it sit there and they have confidence that there'll be return of capital when they're ready to get it?
So the whole point of Bitcoin is not to trust anyone. So I wouldn't trust anyone, even these Bitcoin companies. However, they all have different setups. So Swan Bitcoin, Strike, Unchained Capital, I believe they all use Prime Trust, which sets up individual trusts for each individual person. You don't have to deal with that. It's all in the background. You just see it, a number in your account. But ultimately, you should withdraw your Bitcoin, take it into self-custody. Then there's other companies that actually custody the Bitcoin themselves, and they don't use, third parties. So it's important to know, but it's really not important to know if you just immediately withdraw the Bitcoin from whatever platform you're, purchasing it from.
Okay, so you don't keep any of your Bitcoin on any of these exchanges or anything. It's all in your wallet or however.
Yeah, I mean, I might have like $100 or a couple $100 on a mobile wallet. If I'm going to like a Bitcoin conference and planned on like spending some Bitcoin or showing people about how to do it, but it should never be more money than you'd keep in your own paper wallet. Pay for paper currency. You shouldn't carry around, $10,000. I mean, I guess it depends on who you are, but most people wouldn't do that, right, in their own wallet, and you should treat Bitcoin the same.
And what's the process of taking custody? Can you break it down into a real simple process for how people would do that? They buy the Bitcoin at these places, and then they transfer it to what?
So basically the way Bitcoin works, and this is a very simple explanation, and I'm probably going to be missing some like technicalities here. But Bitcoin is sent from one address to another address. And in order to send from one address to another address, you need a private key. I like to explain it to people to think of it as like PO boxes at a post office. You go in, there's all these different PO boxes. There's Bitcoin in all of them. But think of Bitcoin as transparent PO boxes. So you could see through all the PO boxes, you could see what's in them. But unless you have a key to that individual PO box, you can't move them, right? So the exchanges, when you buy the Bitcoin, they hold the key to one of those PO boxes. And when you buy it, they hold it in this PO box, and you want to send it to your PO box that you have a private key to. You say, I want to withdraw to this address, and they send it. Now you're going to say, well, how do I get this address and this private key, right, for the address? There are certain devices called hardware wallets that help you generate public and private key pairs. The public key is the address, right? And the private key is like the password. And no one else has that private key. It's all done through cryptography, very complicated mathematics that would take billions of years to crack. I think it's something like the chances of guessing a random private key that has Bitcoin on it is something like winning the Powerball 9 times in a row. So it's not, it's not something that we really need to worry about.
Okay. Sounds easy to you, Neil. I'll just say that. Okay. Because
Well,
I'm in
yeah.
FA.
Yeah. What I would say is first, like, learn about Bitcoin, buy a tiny bit, kind of get a feel for what's going on, then buy a hardware wallet, and don't transfer all the Bitcoin from the exchange. If you buy $100,000 worth of Bitcoin, transfer $10 to the hardware wallet first. See that you did it right. Wipe the device clean. Make sure you can restore it. Then it shows the $10 worth of Bitcoin. And once I wiped the device clean, I put in my private key, which is a seed phrase. We don't have to go into like all the details. And the Bitcoin's there. It's like, oh, what do I have to worry about? I have it backed up. Even if the device gets crushed, burns down in a fire, I have a backup of it now. Like, you write it down. Suggest on like Stel, typically. There's places that sell Stel that allow you to easily engrave the private seeds, the seed phrases onto. It's a lot. For someone who's not used to this, it's a lot, but anything worth doing in life is going to take some practice. And, if you don't want to be one of those people, that's okay. If you just want price exposure to Bitcoin, you could buy, MicroStrategy, which is kind of like a derivative of Bitcoin, right? Because they hold a bunch of Bitcoin. Or you can buy one of these ETFs that's not in the US, but that's not really the point of Bitcoin. The point is censorship resistance, unconfiscatable money. And we just saw what happened with the banking system in the last few months, a few bank failures. I don't know if, how far that spreads and if there's still contagion that's going to spread throughout the system. But the whole point of Bitcoin is I never have to worry about that. When these banks are failing, I don't have to worry. Oh, do I have this amount of money in a bank? Is it above this threshold? Is there going to be a bail-in in my country where I am? In the US, we're kind of privileged, but in other countries, they've had bail-ins where they take people's money or they don't let them take them out.
Can you hear me, Neil?
Now I can, yeah.
Okay, because I was having some volume.
I saw you moving around there.
Okay, so can you actually hire a consultant to do all that for you, and you'd have to trust them? If you were,
again, you'll always have to trust someone, but if you go to someone like a Swan Bitcoin, they'll walk you through step by step. If you go to an Unchained Capital, which does like multi-signature setups, meaning to access your Bitcoin, instead of just having like one private key, you'll need like 2 of 3. So basically, kind of like in the movies, you see to open a vault, they need 2 keys to open it at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So Bitcoin, you could set up a similar thing where you set up one there could be 3 keys and you need 2 of them, where like you would hold one, maybe you'd give it to a family member, and then Unchained Capital will hold the 3rd key. So Unchained Capital alone can't access your Bitcoin, right? Because they only have 1 of the 3. So, and they would help walk you through that. They understand that this is a new technology and there's a learning process. But, like I said, anything with...
They must be very patient people.
Yes.
I mean, I do some teaching and coaching, and you need patience. They'd have to be pretty patient with me to walk me through it. I'll tell you that.
But like anything, we humans, we learn. 20 years ago, or not 10 years ago, if you would have said 75-year-old grandmothers would be on their iPhones on Facebook doing things, people would laugh and say, no, they wouldn't. They can't do that, right?
Yeah.
People learn. When there is a need, people learn. And like I said, in the Western world, we're kind of privileged and we don't haven't really dealt with hyperinflation or banks taking our money. But in other parts of the world, there's a need and people learn when there's a need.
Yeah, definitely, especially if they've had to live through a crisis like that. I'd like to get your thoughts on, first of all, the Fed Now system that's coming up, and, the big push towards CBDCs and talk of a unicoin for the whole world. They're talking, I mean, it seems like this momentum is growing. When do you think central banks and governments are going to launch their coins?
So let's just remember, before Bitcoin, you never heard about central bank digital currencies, right? So this is really
never heard about it.
Right. This is really a response to Bitcoin. First off, as far as I understand, the Fed Now is not like a CBDC. It just helps
the new payment system.
Yeah, it's a CBDC would basically be a central bank. You have an account as an individual at a central bank, right? Okay. So I don't think the Fed Now is anything like that. I know a lot of people are saying, well, this is the first step towards that. I don't really see the connection there, but CBDCs in general are very dystopian, right? It would basically, everyone has an account with the Fed and they kind of control how you spend,
well, they know everything.
Yeah, you want to go, eat a steak, and they're like, no, cow farts are bad for the environment. You're only allowed one steak a month. You can't go to this place, right? And we don't allow you to spend there. Or in order to force people to spend money, maybe the economy is, slowing down and they want people to spend, they impose negative interest rates, which force people to spend even if they don't want to, right? So all these things, people say, oh, that'll never happen. But we know we live in a world where that'll never happen happens, right? Yes. No one ever thought that countries would shut down, that the world would shut down in many ways for years. So I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm just talking about the reality. People in power want more power, and CBDCs are really bad. I don't think that a CBDC will happen in the US, especially not first. I think it'll happen in other countries. The US, why would they give up the world reserve currency and switch to another system when they think it's working fine for them? I don't think it
isn't. When it isn't. Anyway.
Right, but why are they going to give that up? And I think they're going to, other places are going to be like the test net to see CBDCs run first. And also in the US, we kind of still have rule of law and the Constitution. A lot of Bitcoiners would say that none of that stuff really matters, that the politicians really do what they want. But, Bitcoin is, protected under the First Amendment. It's speech. It's just computer code, right? That's how I look at it. CBDCs, there's nothing in the Constitution that allows the Fed to set up CBDCs. There's no law that allows the Fed to do this. So you need laws passed. That could happen, but right now the framework isn't there. And I would hope that US citizens don't bend over to a CBDC. But, when times are tough and there's struggle or crisis, that's when laws are passed and people kind of cave. And if someone's going to say, well, I'm going to give you this new CBDC, $10,000 to your account, a lot of people might cave to that if they're in desperate times.
How can you prove that Bitcoin is unconfiscatable?
Well, like I said, you need a private key to access one of those PO boxes, right? A public address to send from one address to another. So when you can generate a public and private key offline without a computer, not connected to the internet. You do that, you could generate 12 words, which make up a private key, and you can memorize those 12 words in your head if you had to. And you could travel. someone confiscate that you. Now, obviously, someone could hold a gun to your head, threaten your family, things like that. But that could happen now with anything. But in terms of coming to your house and taking it from you, they can't take something that's in your mind.
Okay. Not without, unless you're coerced.
Right. But that could happen with anything. And if we're living in
Right.
that world, that kind of is terrible anyways.
Yeah, you probably need ammo.
But there are also ways to kind of create diversions and distractions with so there's ways to kind of mask your seed phrase. You could have multiple seed phrases, right? Where you give them one that has maybe a little Bitcoin on it, kind of like a get the fuck out of here stash. Ooh, excuse me for my language. But where you give them a seed and they say, oh, there's Bitcoin here, he gave us a seed. But then you have another seed phrase that has 90% of your Bitcoin holding. So there's never a way to know for sure who has what amount of Bitcoin, right?
Right, because they ask on the tax form if you've ever bought crypto or Bitcoin. Don't they on tax returns now? So I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know this, Dale. I'm also a CPA, so I'm quite familiar with the tax forms, and I do mostly tax work. It does ask you if you have sold, acquired, all these different things. I don't know if the question. I'm pretty sure buying Bitcoin alone, you don't have to check that box, but ask your CPA. Don't ask mine. Don't take my word for it. A lot of people just as a disclosure thing might check it anyways because they don't want to have to deal with it. But again, there are ways to obtain Bitcoin where there's no KYC. There's no know your customer in obtaining. Now, through the exchanges I told you about, you have to go through a KYC process. So those exchanges know who buys the Bitcoin. And if the government ever went to the exchange, I'm telling you in a minute, those exchanges are going to turn it over to the government. Like they're going to say, this is who we sold the Bitcoin to, right? If you withdrew the Bitcoin, the exchange doesn't have it, right? But your name will be given up. But I can go to a Bitcoin meetup. There's tons of Bitcoin meetups all around the world. And someone could have Bitcoin and say, hey, could I buy $100 worth of Bitcoin on you? Sure. I give them $100 cash. They send it to an address that I have that's not connected with any other address that I've generated. No one knows I have that Bitcoin. No one knows it belongs to me. So there are ways. But yeah, right now, most of the ways to obtain Bitcoin in large quantities is through like KYC efforts or exchanges.
Okay. So anything you want to wrap with?
So someone in the chat said, how are people's Bitcoin stolen? So I think there's a common misconception. You see these big salacious headlines that, oh, this person's Bitcoin was stolen, blah, blah. It's usually like because they kept it on exchanges. Like what we saw with FTX, they have third-party custody. And it's also people that have big mouths. And, they brag about how much Bitcoin they have. And then someone comes to their house with a gun, right? And tries to take their Bitcoin. But there's no like hacking of the Bitcoin network. It's secured by cryptography that the NSA created. No one's ever figured out how to crack it. So yeah, I'm not too concerned. Any last words? No, I'm just happy. Last time we talked, I feel like we were still kind of in the bear market or feelings in Bitcoin. I think I said to you on the last show, I hope I come on here once and Bitcoin's kind of going up. And I think it's probably up like 60, 70% since we last talked. So it's nicer to be on an upswing coming on here.
All right. Well, revel in it. And
there's a saying in the Bitcoin community: stay humble and stack sats. Sats are just Bitcoin. The visibility of a Bitcoin is 100 million units. So people say stay humble, stack sats. I know how volatile this is. I'm in this for the long run, so I don't really revel in it too much. It definitely feels better when number go up, as we say. But it's all just about knowing what you own and teaching and educating others.
So what's FOMO21.com about now?
Oh, yes. Thank you again for bringing it up. So yeah, it's I have a merch and apparel site, Bitcoin only merch and apparel, no crypto merch. It's just Bitcoin merch. And
look, you could spin the wheel today.
Yes, you can spin a wheel and get a discount on our site. So yeah, if you want to X out of that, you can. But yeah, we have all different Bitcoin merch. I do all the designs. So almost everything you see on there has my touches on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been great. We had our best month last month. Things they're moving in the right direction. And yeah, come and check out some Bitcoin only merch at FOMO21.com. And you could find me on Twitter at Neil Jacobs, NeilJacobs. You could DM me on Twitter. I try to answer my messages. I get a lot of them.
I can attest to that. I reached out to Neil because I was going to buy my first Bitcoin, and he was right on it. And
yeah, and I'm kind of a Twitter addict, so yeah. I'm on there a lot. I promote conferences. I speak I'll be at the Bitcoin conference in Miami, May 18th through the 20th. I'm going to be on a panel there. If you want to go, promo code FOMO, coincidentally. All the Bitcoin conferences, use the promo code FOMO. That'll usually get you a nice discount. Just that's a tip for anyone that wants to go to a Bitcoin conference. But yeah, I'll be at that in Miami. Yeah, anyone, just hit me up in my DMs. I love to help people. That's why I do this. I'm passionate about it. Like I said, I have a full-time job outside of the Bitcoin space. I'm a CPA. So Bitcoin for me isn't my only thing. So I'm able to it allows me to be honest and true to myself, because I'm not working for a Bitcoin company, at least as an employee. What you hear me say is what I believe.
Well, wear what you believe. So if you're a hodler, how about this? You could wear this and get a great conversation going with Weimar is coming.
Yes,
that's a great one, man.
So yeah, that's like a play on the winter is coming from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, some people might be familiar with that.
And for any sports enthusiast,
yeah,
huh? I know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, honey badgers. What's that term in crypto again? What are honey badgers?
So basically, a honey badger is one of the most fiercest animals in the world. I don't know if you've ever seen a video. They'll like attack king cobra snakes. They don't care. So there's this saying, a honey badger don't give a, whatever.
Right.
And people in the Bitcoin community said Bitcoin is the honey badger. It just doesn't care. Right. So it kind of became, an unofficial mascot in the Bitcoin community. So yeah, go honey badgers. It's, it's fun. I like to tell people that I bring memes to life, to real life, wearable memes. So that's what I like to do. I have fun with it. And it's good. And it helps spread the word about Bitcoin. Because like you said, like the Weimar is coming is a conversation starter. Either, you'll know what that means, you're a gold bug, or you have no idea what Weimar is, but you know what Game of Thrones is. And you'll be like, what's that mean? Right. And it's all about starting a conversation and having fun.
And it's all about you being a very good ambassador for the space, Neil.
I appreciate that.
And thank you for coming on and explaining what you probably have 1 million times already. And I guess the key takeaway is if there's a need to learn, you won't be lazy and you'll learn it. And if you care about having being in it, like they say, do your own due diligence, same thing here.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of Michael Saylor. He says, once someone puts 100 hours into learning about Bitcoin, they can't look away. Like diligently, that's like 2.5 full work weeks, only Bitcoin, right? Focusing, podcast. Most people, they just have a cursory understanding. They watch a couple of YouTube videos. But once you like really dive in and understand, I think you'll get it. And you'll see why so many people like me are like, holy crap, this is amazing. This could be, it is world changing already. It went from worth nothing to $1 trillion market cap. Now we're back around, I don't know, 400 billion. But you know, I don't know how people see the Bitcoin price at 30,000 and they think, oh, that's a Ponzi scheme. Like maybe there's something about it. Why do you think people are buying it? Yeah, there are some like degenerate gamblers who have no idea what's going on. Maybe that's all the large majority of people. But how could you see something rise to such great heights and not think maybe I'm missing something? Right? Maybe look
being
inward.
adopted. You could. I know someone put out a tweet, Neil, and I will wrap it with this. They it was from a precious metal physical firm that they accept payments in Bitcoin now. So they have on their prices. So it's the main reason is whether and I think probably most people have a negative opinion, never put those 2 weeks into learning about it. They just have an opinion. I still haven't put the 2 weeks into it. But very interesting, it's being adopted, and isn't that the main reason we're going to go to levels that super bulls are talking about, is the adoption process.
Yeah, and look, there's people like me who just keep, accumulating more and more Bitcoin. So even if adoption like slows down, what happens when there's less supply on a market?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a simple supply and demand, right? Price goes up. There's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And you might want to get some in case it catches on. Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator, that's a famous quote by him for anyone that doesn't know. And just one other thing I want to say before we go, there's a really good YouTube creator, BTC Sessions, SESSIONs, like sessions, where he does tutorials on like any Bitcoin thing you could think of. If you type in BTC Sessions, hardware wallet, BTC Sessions, exchanges, whatever you want to type in, he probably has something, and he's really good. I would check him out if you want to learn how to do things, like actually do things in the space.
All right. Well, Neil, thanks so much for edifying the F.A.C.E community once again. And I'm glad
this has been like a quarterly thing for us. I feel like every 3 months. I like it.
It is, and it will be again.
I'm in.
If and anyway, get ready, everyone. Weimar is coming, and Neil Jacobs. You can follow him at Neil Jacobs, and I guarantee you, if you have a question, he'll get back to you. Thank you, Neil, for being my go-to Bitcoin guy.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I always love your chat. The audience is getting more and more receptive to Bitcoin.
They didn't boo you out of here this time.
No, I feel like the first time they were a little more on edge, but now they're getting more and more warm to it.
You're part of the family now, buddy. It's been a year.
I'm happy to be here.
All right. Neil Jacobs, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take it easy. See you, bro. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you, everyone. All right. I'll see everyone, and you could join the team in 13 minutes on the Morning Edge. Everyone, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Don't just count your crypto and coins. Count your blessings. I need a shave, huh? Same to you guys. Back at you, Sinatra. Adios.